Alright, today we're talking about true romance. And this movie's what happens when a lonely video store clerk writes himself into a cooler version of his own life. Clarence is basically Quentin Tarantino's spirit animal. He's a film nerd so deep into his own pop culture fantasy, he quotes kung fu flicks and Elvis in normal conversation. He's chick repellent in human form. Then suddenly he finds his dream girl, kills her pimp, and starts living the life of the movies he worships. It's the ultimate what if Tarantino actually got laid fantasy. But honestly, me and Clarence aren't too different. I used to force my last two ex-wives to watch the Dolomite Collection with me. And I know they hated it, but they acted like they liked it just to appease me. So to all you film nerds out there, there's hope. You still can get laid. So Clarence works in a comic shop, which is the most incel job ever, other than working at a video store. He spends his birthday alone watching Sonny Chiba movies, badass, and ends up talking to a chick named Alabama. And he's genuinely shocked at how much game he's spitting to her, and she's eating it all up. This is the greatest chick on earth. She likes Sonny Chiba, she likes Elvis. Holy shit, you better check and make sure she doesn't have a dick, dude. But in reality, Alabama's a prostitute who completely honeypots Clarence into thinking she likes him, but it turns out she was hired by his boss as a birthday present. And ironically, it's her first day being a hooker. But that's what they all say. Every time you fall in love with a hooker, she always says, "It's only my first day and you're my first client." It's the most unrealistic love story of all time. Knowing my luck, if I met the hooker of my dreams, I'd probably be her 10,007th customer. How come every hooker in every movie somehow just started last week? Nobody in cinema has ever had a 3-year veteran with miles on the odometer. It's always the same fairy tale. I'm new, I'm different, I'm pure, save me. And Clarence, being a Captain Save-A-Ho raised on kung fu marathons, buys it immediately. So this dude's just gonna risk his entire life on a prostitute he met 10 minutes ago. So now he's gotta go confront her pimp, Drexel, played by Gary Oldman in one of the most bizarre, unhinged performances of the 90s. Drexel is this white guy who thinks he's a Jamaican drug lord. And what I don't understand is, anytime there's a movie about a pimp, he's also a drug dealer. You gotta understand, pimping and drug dealing are two completely different professions. You can't be good at both. No good drug dealer is a good pimp, and no good pimp is a good drug dealer. You have to focus on your one profession, because both professions are extremely time consuming. Don't ask me how I know, just trust me. But back to Drexel. He's got a Jamaican accent, talks in patois, and has this psychotic hatred towards white people. He's basically the first wigger supervillain in movie history. You got fucking Bram Stoker's Dracula over here pretending to be Bob Marley, and somehow no one bats an eye. Make it make sense. When Clarence shows up to rescue Alabama, Drexel looks at him and drops the legendary line, "He must have thought this was white boy day." It's such a surreal moment. You have a white man pretending to be black, filled with racial resentment, mocking another white guy for acting like a hero. It's absurd. Drexel is what happens when an identity crisis becomes a personality. Clarence is what happens when becoming pussy whipped is your personality. Alabama is what happens when fantasy becomes a soulmate. So Clarence decides to risk everything on Alabama and shoot up the entire room. This guy's a gangster, his real name's Clarence. And don't get me started about his parents, but we'll get to that. So Clarence goes full Charles Bronson, kills everyone in the room, and steals Drexel's suitcase full of drugs that belonged to Christopher Walken and skips town. But his dumbass left his ID behind, and now you got Christopher Walken coming after your ass. And a young Tony Soprano. Oh. And then you got the Sicilian scene, one of the greatest scenes in all of 90s cinema. It's the moment that defines the incredible talent assembled for this film. The dialogue in this scene is what made Tarantino a legend. It's his magnum opus, littered with racism and N-bombs, every Tarantino staple. It's what put him on the map. So you have Dennis Hopper, Clarence's father, and Christopher Walken, the mob boss. Walken's trying to intimidate Hopper into revealing where Clarence went. Dennis Hopper, knowing he's about to die and wants to save his son, so he decides to go out like a gangster in a pure act of defiance, decides to go in this whole diatribe on how the Moors came over to Sicily and fucked the entire nation and turned Italian people into blacks. And you know how mob guys are, they're racist as hell, so to tell them that they're part black is fighting words. He doesn't beg for his life, asks Walken for a Chesterfield. It's a calculated insult designed to guarantee his own death, but also protect his son. And also tell the mob to go fuck themselves. It's brilliant. And Christopher Walken, genuinely impressed by the balls on this prick, decides, I'm not gonna torture you, I like you, so I'm just gonna shoot you in the head, and we'll call it a day. It was actually the most noble and respectful death he could have received. In another life, they could have been friends. He dies with dignity, and psychologically he wins the argument. It's a masterclass in tension. Even though he dies, it's sort of a happy ending because he dies like a man. Besides, he's a Detroit cop living in a trailer. Walken did him a favor. So Alabama and Clarence are on the road with Christopher Walken's drugs, thinking they're fucking Mickey and Mallory. Which is ironic because True Romance and Natural Born Killers are both the same script, just made by two different directors. If you notice, Tarantino's credited with writing this script and Natural Born Killers. He basically got paid twice for the same job. That's efficiency. So Clarence and Alabama get married and they take their honeymoon escape trip to LA, where they meet up with Michael Rappaport. He's more known nowadays for his anti-Trump iPhone videos, but back in the day he was an actor, if you can believe it. And his name is Dick Ritchie. Yeah, that's his name. He's a struggling actor who thinks this coke is their big break in Hollywood. And who becomes their gateway to Hollywood? Balki from Perfect Strangers. Remember that guy? You're probably not as old as me. You probably have no fucking clue who this guy is. But he's a coked up movie producer who's basically doing a parody of every 90s Hollywood sleazebag. Clarence decides he's gonna sell the entire stolen stash to this guy for a reduced price. He's the worst drug dealer in history. Clarence is this nobody from Detroit negotiating drug deals like it's a going out of business sale. And meanwhile, you got Brad Pitt on the couch, playing Floyd, the permanently high roommate who offers everyone snacks while accidentally giving the mob directions to find Clarence. He's the happiest snitch in film history. He doesn't even know he snitched, and he probably forgot 10 seconds later. And this indirectly leads to the greatest showdown in movie history between Tony Soprano and a woman. And this is the most memorable scene besides the Sicilian showdown. This is the scene that got James Gandolfini the role in The Sopranos. You can literally see Tony Soprano being beta tested in this room. Virgil is basically Tony without the anxiety attacks and the gabagool. So Virgil finds Alabama alone in the hotel and he beats the living shit out of her. It's brutal. And right when he has her completely finished, he stops. Because Virgil's one of those idiots that likes to play with his food. Instead of ending it, he decides it's monologue time. He starts rambling about what it's like to kill people, like he's reading his resume out loud. He loves the sound of his own voice, and that arrogance is the exact thing that gets him killed. And while he's talking, Alabama's thinking. She goes into survival mode, and she wins not because she's stronger, but because she's smarter and more desperate. She blindsides him with a corkscrew in his foot, sets him on fire, smashes his face with a toilet lid, and finally blows him away with his own gun. It's completely unrealistic. James Gandolfini's what, 6'2", 300 pounds? She's $140 soaking wet? Bro, you lost to a girl. It's humiliating, but poetic justice. Virgil could have literally sat on her and ended it, but instead he died like a big, dumb, arrogant idiot because he wanted to savor the moment. And this scene is the soul of the movie's violence, and it cements Alabama as more than a hooker with a heart of gold. She becomes a ride-or-die warrior. She's a total badass. She'll fuck Clarence up. And it's pretty damn romantic. And by the time we reach the final showdown in True Romance, every bad decision, every half-baked plan, and every macho fantasy Clarence ever had comes crashing into one room. You got the cops on one side, the mob on the other, a briefcase full of coke in the middle, and a bunch of Hollywood idiots who don't realize they're 30 seconds away from becoming drywall stains. It's fate, it's karma, it's divine comedy with automatic weapons. Clarence walks in thinking he's the hero of his own movie, but he's just drifting through a storm he created, clueless that it's his fault the tornado exists in the first place. Alabama knows it, the audience knows it, the only person who doesn't get it is Clarence. Then everything detonates. Cocaine explodes in the air, shell casings bounce across the floor, people are dying in every direction. Clarence gets dropped immediately, shot in the face. knocked out and completely useless. The hero doesn't save the day, he just bleeds all over the carpet while the universe settles the score around him. And that's the hidden joke of true romance. Clarence isn't a badass, he's just lucky. In Alabama, the only survivor drags his half-dead body out to the car, and they hightail it out to Mexico. And they lead a new life in the sun, far away from mobsters and movie producers. Clarence loses his eye, but he gains a family. They have a baby. And it's pretty much a happy ending. Because this movie isn't about reality. It's about the fantasy these two people choose to live in, no matter how delusional or reckless it was. And then Alabama closes the show with that final line, "You're so cool." But in actuality, he's a fucking dork. But he pulled it off. He got out of that comic book shop in Detroit, and now he's living on the beach with a big-boobed prostitute that had his baby. Life is good. What else could you ask for? And they get the ending real people never do. A forever honeymoon. No consequences, just beaches, sunshine, with a Bonnie and Clyde happy ending. Except Bonnie and Clyde's ending wasn't that happy. But this is a fairy tale of broken people. 'Cause in real life, love never saves you. But in true romance, it does. But this movie has a ton of heart. It's super endearing. And Quentin Tarantino basically used this movie to parlay his film career. With the money he made selling this script, he went on to make Reservoir Dogs. So this movie is the gift that keeps on giving. And it has a badass cameo from Val Kilmer. Fresh off playing Jim Morrison, he comes back to play Elvis. R.I.P. Val Kilmer. R.I.P. But yeah, tell me some of your favorite scenes, your favorite quotes. This movie has a ton of great quotes. White Boy Day, the Sicilian quote, which I'd rather paraphrase than quote directly before I get canceled over here. But tell me what this movie means to you. And to the rest of you, I hope you have a good night. Be safe. Don't marry hookers. And God bless.